All right, all, Nick here, and welcome back to the channel. Well, if you watched episode 1 in the 4.0 liter plus swap series, then you know what the plan is. Pulling the 3.7 in the drivetrain out of the Commander, pulling the 4 liter drivetrain out of the Cherokee, and putting the 4 liter drivetrain into the Commander. Went over some of the possible upgrades to the axle as far as the knuckles go. Briefly touched on regearing and a few other things. Oh, numbers, horsepower, torque numbers between the difference these two particular engines and the other two available engines that came in the Commander, the 4.7 and the 5.7. In this episode, which we're going to call Prepping for the Pull, it's going to be the initial teardown of the Commander, basically stripping the front end out. I mean, not the front end, because I'm not taking the axle out yet, but basically everything off the front end, the engine compartment, headlights, bumper, all that crap that's coming out to make pulling the engine just a little bit easier, because I plan on pulling the engine, the transmission, the transfer case. So, prepping for the pull. Stick around. Let's get this Jeep in the garage. that is light. So I think we're about a point where we're going to start draining fluids. Start pulling electrical stuff. Maybe get it up on some jack stands so I can get the drive shafts disconnected. Probably start with that. So we'll go ahead and back it up a little bit, straighten out, pull it in, make sure I can close the garage door. And then start, just keep going, keep plugging away. Alright, so I'm back out in the garage today. Gonna try and get these drive shafts removed. I got them disconnected at each of the differentials. Got the bolts out at the transfer case. However, they both seem to be seized up a little bit. I think the front should be fairly easy. Probably just a hammer and chisel should pop that off pretty quick. Rear, I don't know, it's pretty rusty. Crazy rust. Something that can destroy metal, so it crumbles in your hand, can also hold two pieces of metal together like they're welded. So we are going to work on that, and then if I get those two done fairly quickly, I'll go ahead and get the O2 sensor wires cut and get the starter electrical disconnected. And then, depending on time, I might start cutting the exhaust out. But if I can get that done, then this weekend we should be able to pull the engine out, which would be fantastic. So, here we go. We'll say that I'm waiting on some Croyle from the old Amazon. It's supposed to be here today. I haven't seen it yet. But, you know, what are you going to do? Something else I'll say too is that these damn bolts holding the drive shaft, the rear specifically, to the transfer case, there's some work to get off. That's a little blue Loctite, some heat probably would have helped, but can't hardly get an impact in there. Use a little 15 short wrench. It's a workout. Just keep that in mind if you ever want to do this. Alright. Beautiful. What's next? Starter. Alright, so we're going to see about trying to find. There's still a little bit of work to do. Exhaust to cut out, but we'll come back to that. So we're going to try and see if we can't find a couple good lifting points. Now, one fella on the old YouTube said he used these two bolts here on either side, the upper side of his water pump. It's midway up on the water pump maybe, for the front. And then he did go rings around, chain around his intake manifold, but he was just pulling the engine. But he did say you can get to two of the transmission bolts from up top. Now if I can get to those two transmission bolts, I might be able to put the back end of my leveler on those, in which case then I should be good to lift out the engine, the transmission, and the transfer case. So, do that. Let's go ahead and get the alternator pulled and the compressor pulled. stronger bolt. That might work. I'm gonna try this. I might have one, or I might be wrong. Certainly go find one. Ugh. That's probably an M10, is my guess. So M10 or M8, I'm not sure. Whatever. We'll take it to the hardware store. We'll get two. Probably maybe twice as long. If we can't get a 1-inch steel spacer, a 1/2-inch steel spacer, something to put in between the lifting arm. Block, tighten the bolt up, and that will give us these two up front. Those two back there, that should be pretty good spots for lifting. Yeah, all right. 2 of these tomorrow.